Hello. I think this is something really important that needs to be said to all Bernie Sanders supporters out there. I'm going to start with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Something that, Bernie Sanders has quoted Martin Luther King Jr. over and over again in his speeches, and I'm going to quote him right now. So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my own mind. It is made for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edicts of others. I'm going to say right now that Bernie Sanders' speech in California after the primary, he did some fear-mongering against voting for Donald Trump. And this is wrong on so many levels. I no longer support Bernie Sanders, and I wish you'd hear me out on this one before you pass a judgment, but I'm going to explain why, and I have some notes here, so I'm going to be looking down a little bit, but hear me out on this. Hillary Clinton has been backed by corporate America and the establishment all along the way, and she's being faithful to support the establishment and support those bankers and those big corporations right now, all the way through, even if it means rigging the election in California, which did happen. There has been voter suppression and election fraud in so many states across this country that the bigger issue right now is, are we going to live in a democracy? Are we going to retain the right to vote? Will our votes affect what happens in this country? Because I'm going to tell you right now that if they get away with this in the primaries, with this total election fraud and voter suppression, if they get away with it now, it's a test. Because even if Donald Trump or some third-party person wins in the general election, they will still hand it to Hillary. If we do not make a stink about this now, she will be elected, and 4 years from now, when my children are able to vote, it won't matter anymore, because we won't be in a democracy. Right now, this issue of voter suppression, election fraud that has been put in our faces. It's been put in our face by the establishment. You do not have a vote anymore. You don't have a say in this democracy. It's not a democracy anymore. Now, Hillary has been faithful to supporting all the people and holding up and representing the people who've supported her. Saudi Arabia, the big banks, Wall Street, the establishment. But Bernie Sanders has taken $27 from millions of people and has not stood up and said this election was rigged. This election was rigged from the outset. This is what happened in Arizona. This is what happened in California. This is what happened in New Jersey. This is what happened in New York. And you know what? The bigger issue here is, if your vote doesn't count and she gets in the office, your vote may never ever count again. So right now, before we get to the general election, we have to make a stink. Whether you support Trump or Bernie Sanders, it doesn't matter right now, because it was just put in the face of America. Democracy is dead as far as they're concerned. It's in a coma, really. And we have the ability to wake it up, but we have to protest. I'm not talking violence. I'm talking peaceful protests. We have to make the biggest stink ever about this election fraud, or whoever wins the popular vote. And it will not be Hillary Clinton. In the general election, it won't matter. The Electoral College will put their vote in for Hillary, and she will be elected. And you know what? So, Hillary has backed, and she has represented her supporters all along. Bernie Sanders, you have betrayed us. And I know a lot of people probably want to turn this off right now and say, what the fuck? Excuse my language, but you have betrayed us, Bernie Sanders, because you took all that money from those young people who had some vision for America. They wanted to see the big banks not in the establishment, not control this country anymore. They wanted to see democracy reestablished here. And you, by not addressing the biggest issue of this campaign and doing it forcefully like Donald Trump has, by not addressing the issue of a democratic election, talking about the rigged elections and forcefully saying, no, Hillary stole this election. Because right now, Bernie, you have betrayed all those people. They don't make a lot of money, but they sent you what they had, and they've given you their time and months of their time and energy for you to not stand up for the cornerstone of democracy, which is the right to have your vote count. Right now, the establishment has said to all of us, your vote doesn't count, and they're watching to see how we react, because if we go along with it, this is exactly what's going to go down in the general election, I guarantee you. It won't matter who you vote for. There really is not a democracy when your vote doesn't count. Bernie, you owe your supporters what you have promised them, and that is that you will try to ensure that we are living in a fair and democratic society. I live in Southern California. I drove people to vote in this primary election on Tuesday and watched them get turned away at 2 polling centers. The third gave them provisionals. This is voter suppression. Hundreds of people that are deceased somehow cast their votes for Hillary Clinton. Look it up. Bernie, if you don't stand up for this most simple concept in democracy, is that the right to vote and your vote counts equally, no matter who you are. If you don't stand up for that, then you have lied and baited all these young people with their hopes and their dreams for a better America, and you have smashed them, you have betrayed them, and you owe giving them their money back, because you know what? As crooked as Hillary is, she has stuck with the people who paid her, who supported her, and now you, Bernie Sanders, have turned your back on the people who supported you. It is bigger right now, guys, than just Bernie or Trump. It is about your vote counting. You cannot let these fraudulent elections, these farces that remind me of North Korea, picture of Hillary Clinton, oh, the golden goddess. And you know what? There's a picture just like that. In fact, if you look at her pictures and you look up Kim Jong-un, I say his name wrong, sorry about that. But the point is, if you look this up, what you're going to find out, people, is that these pictures of Hillary are posed for, and they're premeditated, and they look almost just like Kim Jong-un's, like North Korea, man. That's where we're headed. It's not a joke. Bernie Sanders, and I'm an ex-supporter. I'm going to tell you something else. Bernie Sanders, by using fear-mongering in his speech on June 8th, after he lost California, fear-mongering against Donald Trump because he says some scary things when Hillary has done scarier things. And by telling people, if you vote for Trump, you know, you could never vote for that evil man. Well, we know what Hillary's done. We know her track record. You emotionally blackmailed your supporters, and you're trying to almost force and push them, saying you have to vote for Hillary because Trump is so bad. You know what? I'm here to say Trump does act like a dick sometimes. You know that? He can act like a dick. But I'd rather have a dick who speaks his mind and isn't going to drive this democracy into the coffin and under the ground for the America will disappear from history. Very likely under Hillary Clinton. And you want people, you want to tell them to go cast their vote for Hillary because Trump is just so evil? Why don't you, hey, a lady who rigs the election and doesn't care what the American people think or feel or about the democratic process, and you would rather see her elected, and you would emotionally manipulate and emotionally blackmail your supporters into voting for her, and that is bullshit, Bernie Sanders. If we allow this primary election that was rigged to go on without a fight, without some protesting, some serious protesting between now and November, I'll bet my savings Hillary will be elected, even if the popular vote goes to Donald Trump or a third-party candidate. She will be elected because they see that they can bypass our vote, bypass the democratic process, and it's disgusting. And how dare you stand with that woman? Furthermore, Bernie supporters, you don't owe Hillary Clinton or the Democratic establishment or the Democratic Party anything. They have turned you away and said you don't count at every corner you have turned. They have suppressed votes. They have committed election fraud. Barbara Boxer got out there and said she feared for her life after Bernie supporters booed her. If you watch the video, she says, "I'm not afraid of you," to the audience, and she flips him off and she blows him kisses. That's Barbara Boxer. Then she gets on national television, assuming there's going to be a media blackout on what really happened in Nevada, and says, "Guess what, guys? I was scared for my life. Those Bernie supporters are really dangerous." You know what? I'm going to suggest there's a lot of passionate Bernie supporters, but my uncle was elected the sheriff of Kern County, and there was major corruption in Kern County. The previous sheriff had been selling guns illegally that he had taken from people's houses in raids and auctioning them off himself. There was major corruption in the system. My uncle ran, and he got that, and he stayed in that seat for a while, and he got death threats for him and his family for the things he did to try to create accountability in Kern County. And he had been the chief of police in Tehachapi for over 20 years before that. But you know what? He stood up, and he didn't back down on this stuff. Hillary people, Bernie people, you don't owe. You think about how the Hillary camp has treated you. You think about how the DNC, the Democratic Party, has treated you. Barbara Boxer said you could boo yourself right out of the Democratic Party. We don't want you. Watch the videos. I'm going to tell you right now, they're not even pretending to care about your vote. They're not even pretending to care that they want to get you voters over to her side and try to make things better, because they know they don't have to. Why make concessions to a people who are already enslaved? You don't owe the DNC, you don't owe Hillary Clinton anything. She has stolen the election unfairly. She's a criminal. You want to really look at things? You think Donald Trump is a sexist? Hillary Clinton's husband, Bill Clinton, at least 26 times flew on an airplane with Jeffrey Epstein. You know who Jeffrey Epstein is? Look him up. He trafficked young children as young as 12 and 13 years old, sex trafficked them on his private plane, took them to a private island where these children were raped by people as high as dukes, right? Prince Albert. Bill Clinton, and these, you think about this, these little kids on an island. You can't report. You can't run out in the street and scream for help when this is happening to you as a child. You're on an island, and if they go too far and they push it too far, don't you think they dump some of those bodies in the ocean so there would never be evidence of what the kids that endured the violent rapes went through? They removed that evidence, I'm going to guarantee you. Nobody sets up a private island for the purpose of bringing children from other countries, trafficking them on your plane, Jeffrey Epstein, and Bill Clinton ditched his Secret Service and went on that plane a minimum of 26 times. Hillary knows this. Look this stuff up. A woman who would protect a child molester or protect her husband under these circumstances, she's not just a sexist. She hates children. Her husband is a pedophile and a rapist, and she's known it the whole time. Think about what you're going to do next, because I'm going to tell you right now, the big fight right now is that your vote counts. That what you vote as an American citizen should at least be recorded. And it should be considered, and it should show up in the actual results of the election. When your vote is at provisional, and that's what the people that polled worked at the polling stations in California were trained to do, is to give those people provisional, Bernie supporters, provisional ballots. Guess what? 80% of those get thrown in the trash can. They were instructed to do this. Look it up. The big fight right now, guys, is we need a democracy established. You know what? Even if you don't like Trump, 4 years of Trump, you're not going to lose democracy in 4 years of Trump. Even if he is an asswipe and that's what you think. But she's already done it in the primaries. She will take your democracy away from you in the general election and in her presidency. And I guarantee you, she is an establishment stooge. She will always do what they say. And you know what, Bernie? You're not doing what your supporters and the people who gave you money, that you said, hey, I'm not taking money from these corporations because I'm not going to represent them. That's what you said, that you were going to represent the people whose money you took. Well, here, I'm one of them, and you did not represent me. You should have called out the fraud. You should have called out the rigged system. You should have called out Hillary Clinton and Barbara Boxer and the others and done it loud and strong and at every rally you had. But the cornerstone of our democracy, the right to vote and have your vote count, is the really big issue right now. And the rest of it is not going to matter no matter who you favor, no matter who you want to get elected down the road. If you allow this voter suppression to continue, the rest of it's not going to matter. So I'm going to close once again with that quote by Martin Luther King. So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess my own self. I cannot make up my own mind. It is made for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edicts of others. And Bernie, you're a part of that right now. I'm sorry. People, think for yourselves for a minute. Thank you. Cole Jeffries. Bye.